Coming up in news are upholding ethical standards and sanitizing the airwaves in the lead up to election 2016.
Consultative meeting to speed up work on national identification system. Pleasure to have you select GBC24. Time to bring you News Hour. My name is Gifty Eji.
I am Shirley Anan. Clement Sam is our signer for tonight.
In our first story, Ghana is back in dialogue over military action in Syria. On Tuesday, Accra pledged to work closely together with Tehran to press for a peaceful resolution to the Syrian crisis. President John Mahama, who was the first high-profile African politician to visit post-sanctioned Iran, confirmed the position taken by the two countries on the Syrian issue when he received the Iranian Foreign Minister, Dr. Mohammad Javad Zarif, in Accra.
Very good. You're welcome. Thank you. Welcome.
I am here, Mr. President, with a large political and business delegation in order to ensure that we will implement the decisions that you and President Rouhani made during Your Excellency's visit to Iran in expanding cooperation between Iran and Ghana in all fields. We want to work with Ghana in the field of combating terrorism and extremism, in security cooperation. We've always been good friends and political partners in the non-aligned movement in the United Nations. We have valued the friendship and the principled position of Ghana.
I want to thank you very much for the additional scholarships. Already we have many Ghanaian students studying in Iran, and so this is going to give us even more opportunity, especially for our girls. We wish that we can apply many more of these scholarships to girls to come and learn in the area of science and technology and medicine. And so we're going to look at prioritizing that. And so I want to express our appreciation to you. We continue to follow Iran's progress, and we believe that the issue of Syria and Iraq must be a focus of the world's attention to try and resolve the issues there. I don't believe that there can be a military solution to the Syrian question. And so it's important that these talks that the United Nations is hosting to try and encourage dialogue to be able to resolve the Syrian issue.
Meanwhile, Iran's Foreign Minister Dr. Mohammad Javad Zarif and his delegation have shared ideas with the Speaker of Parliament, Mr. Do Ajahu, in Accra. Part of the discussions centered on investment in agriculture. Again, Ghana stands to benefit from Iran's expertise in nuclear energy, especially at this time that Ghana is facing some hurdles in the energy sector.
More than 5 decades ago, Ghana and Iran became key players in the non-aligned movement when the Cold War was at its peak. Today, with this war over, the two continue to enjoy a good relationship with cooperation in areas such as education and health. Currently, the Iran clinic in Accra, though now being expanded, has provided quality healthcare to many Ghanaians. Ghana's Foreign Minister Ms. Hannah Tete led the Iranian delegation to the Speaker's office. Both minority and majority leaders of Ghana's legislature commended Iran for its support over the years. Iran's Foreign Minister Dr. Mohammad Javad Zarif said Iran will partner Ghana both in the private and public sectors.
We are ever thankful to the Ghanaian people and Ghanaian government for having been with us during our difficult times. We have now finished the process of negotiations and implementation of the nuclear agreement, which ended international sanctions. Our industry, our trade, food industry, agriculture, science and technology, we're here to strengthen the ties between our two business communities, but also, and they're not right now as we speak, engaged in a business forum together.
Speaker of Parliament Mr. Douajahu was grateful to Iran and invited Iran's Speaker of Parliament for a visit.
I commend the leadership of Iran that were able to go through that difficult negotiation, you need to be commended. And indeed, the press briefing that I did in Tehran in front of Parliament House in 2014 with my colleague, the Speaker of Iran, I made the point clear that Iran has a right to develop nuclear power for peaceful purposes. I made that point very, very clear when I was there. And that still is my position. And I'm happy that today, throughout the negotiation, that principle emerged clear.
Iran's foreign minister's visit is reciprocal to President Mohammed's trip to Iran early this year.
Now, the country's lawmakers on Tuesday discussed the Public Financial Management Bill. This was its second reading. When passed into law, it will ensure a high sense of accountability and transparency in the management of public finance.
To strengthen public finances and promote fiscal discipline, the experts say it is important to improve on and consolidate the existing law to regulate financial management of the public sector. The Public Financial Management Bill 2016 is therefore to boost the understanding of the government's financial management framework. So, this is to help with accountability and transparency in the government's financial management framework and the execution of fiscal policy. This is expected to ensure more efficient, effective and economic use of government resources. Finance Minister Mr. Setekbe moved the motion for the second reading with support by the chairman of the Finance Committee. While some members complained about the delay of the bill, others believe attention must be on the bill's provisions.
The Financial Administration Act and the Loans Act, in my view, it is an attempt to bring discipline among government agencies in the use of state resources. For that reason, for the first time, there are proposed sanctions for persons who don't do the right things. The fire was not biting enough. So there are proposed sanctions in this new bill that hopefully will keep people in check.
What we need to avoid as a country is being declared debt distress. And for reporting purposes, for instance, yesterday when the Minister of Finance appeared before this August House, he shared with us a decline in his debt to GDP ratio. How can honorable members satisfy themselves that the 64%, through this reporting, we will know? Because we are the house which approves the loans, we must appreciate the purposes of the loan and we must be interested in the disbursement and impact of the loan. There are provisions in this bill for reporting on debt management, which will come to this August House to support us so that tomorrow when he announces this, we have a ready document to look at.
A number of papers were presented to the House, including the National Disaster Management Organization Bill 2015.
The Ghana Independent Broadcasters Association (GBA) has, with support from UNESCO, launched a code of conduct as part of measures to uphold ethical standards and ensure decent language on the airwaves, especially during this election year. Ghana Independent Broadcasters Association (GBA) drew up the code of conduct to monitor especially the activities of the private media. It is to ensure that any information published in the print media, as well as discussions and comments made on the electronic media, are decent and peaceful. The Code of Conduct contained in the booklet is made up of 18 principles about monitoring and evaluation of media activities and the right to a rejoinder, among others. The code also frowns on bribery and corruption in the media. The president of the Ghana Independent Broadcasters Association, GBA, Mr. Akwesi Agyemang, said a set of principles was necessary for national peace and development.
We will not amplify inflammatory speech. We will not allow our platforms to be used to destroy people's characters. We will not allow our platforms to be used to throw untrue accusations around, to score political points or to advance any partisan agenda.
The chairman of the Electoral Commission, Mrs. Charlotte Osei, commended GBA for coming out with such a guiding document. She hoped the code would help improve the quality of communication in the media, especially in this election year.
We all know that delivering a credible electoral outcome is not only the responsibility of the Electoral Commission. It is indeed a collective responsibility of all Ghanaians, especially the media. The Commission's plans for organizing successful elections would not materialize if the voting public lacks access to the information they need to make choices.
The chairman of the National Media Commission, Mr. Kwesi Jana-Pinting, reiterated the need for the media to be responsible.
Obviously, the broadcasting industry is massive, both in terms of reach and influence. The scope of the broadcasting landscape places a huge responsibility on GBA, which groups the majority of broadcasters in this country. This is because while there are obvious benefits of this liberal and available broadcasting landscape, there's the need to ensure that broadcasters adhere to the universal principles and protocols that govern broadcasting everywhere.
The launch attracted stakeholders including the Ghana Journalists Association and the National Peace Council.
To watch a news hour on GBC24. In other stories, about 10 years ago, a national identification system was proposed to develop a centralized data administration. The system was to prevent overlapping so that all institutions who rely on data from individuals to complement their work will have a single reference point. But its implementation has been fraught with some difficulties. Therefore, at a meeting in Accra, partners involved in the project called on the National Development Planning Commission to find out from the implementing agency the cause for the delay. A report by Winifred Afun.
When you travel outside the country and you are driving, and a policeman stops you, whether it's overspeeding or jumping traffic light or anything like that, you just have to call your name. They also look at your number plate, and then every data about you comes out. So if it's a traffic light that you jump, what happens is that before you get home, you get your bill being sent to you.
These are some of the concerns raised by a number of people about the implementation of a national identification system. From 2006, when the National Identification Authority was established to oversee this initiative, it is yet to materialize, with many institutions generating their own biometric systems to capture the data of clients. Many are of the view that the situation can be solved by a central data administration system. The National Development Planning Commission, NDPC, therefore organized a consultative meeting on the Integrated National Identification System. Presentations were in two folds. Institutions that deal with biometric identification systems, such as the DVLA, the Police Service, and the Ghana Immigration Service, and those involved with work-related biometric registration, such as SNET and the Controller and Accountant General's Department. All these institutions called for a unified system, complaining of challenges with verifying the identification cards that are mostly submitted to their outfits. The chairman of the NDPC, Professor Kwesi Botri, said the NDPC and its partners will propose realistic timelines to implement the system.
Our plan is then to form a task team drawn from among the membership around the table. That will then continue the technical discussions, all right, and a more in-depth review of current systems and the requirements for their integration and management.
It is expected that the Commission will ensure a modern and comprehensive national identification system by the end of 2018. Winifred Afun, GBC24, Accra.
Welcome back. The United Progressive Party UPP has launched its manifesto and campaign for the December 7 general elections in Kumasi. The leader and presidential candidate of the party, Mr. Akwesi Adai-Odike, also named Yao Broja Mensah as his running mate.
At the launch of the manifesto and campaign for this year's presidential and parliamentary elections in Kumasi, the United Progressive Party (UPP) has also outdoored its campaign team and its national vice chairman, Alhaji Bashiru Bakari. The 2016 national campaign of the UPP is on the theme Ghana Awake and Live. The party's 74-page manifesto is christened Era of Sector Development for Jobs and Wealth Creation. The party refers to its manifesto as the 10-year development plan because it intends to legalize the document if it wins the elections to make it mandatory for the UPP to fully implement all the policies espoused in it. In that case, it will become a binding social contract between the government and the electorate. The UPP officially outdoored the vice presidential candidate of the 2016 flag bearer. He is 53-year-old Kumasi-based businessman, Mr. Yao Broja Mensah. Giving highlights of the 2016 manifesto of the UPP, Mr. Adai-Odike indicated that his party plans to increase Ghana's cocoa production level from the current 600,000 metric tons to 10 million metric tons to generate about $26 billion for the national economy. Also, a strategy towards the attainment of the target, a UPP government would introduce a policy known as Urban Cocoa Planting Scheme. Under the scheme, the Cocoa Board, CSIR, schools and other relevant entities will spearhead the cultivation of cocoa on all unused lands in the cities and school lands and replace ornamental plants or avenue trees in the urban centers with cocoa. Mr. Adai-Odike also said his government would create what he calls a shoe village in Kumasi where additional value would be given to locally made footwear for export to also serve as an avenue for job creation.
When given the mandate, United Progressive Party is going to be a private sector-led administration. We are going to create enabling environment for businesses to grow.
Now, the presidential candidate of the Independent People's Party, Kofi Akpaloo, has endorsed the finance minister's request to Parliament for an additional 1.8 billion Ghana cedis to pay contractors. Mr. Akpaloo told 24 in an interview on Tuesday that more money is needed to keep the wheels of the economy turning till the end of the year. He, however, called on minority parties to put check and balances on the executive to ensure proper use of state money.
He was so honest about his position because he did mention of projecting using $53 per barrel, talking about the crude oil, and it fell to something below $30, and then later came back to something around $47, and it has affected the projections, the revenue projections, and also the decline in the cocoa price on the world market, and also decline in the production of oil on a daily basis from 100,000 to 90,000. It's clear that they need more money to run the government. I think it's something that we should all support, that they get the money to execute the projects remaining. Ghana is not dying, so I don't think we should die before we come and invest the money. What we have to do as minority parties is that we have to put checks and balances on the executive, making sure that they are doing the right thing with our monies. Other than that, whether they are using the money, but we have to also know the specifics, what exactly they are going to use those monies on.
Women in Agriculture Development, a department under the Ministry of Food and Agriculture, have been interacting with Gari processors in parts of the Bunafo region to keep them abreast of standardized ways of processing. Latest to benefit from this initiative are processors from the Winchi and Tyne districts.
This is the first in the series of field trips scheduled by the Women in Agriculture Development (WIAD) Department of the Ministry of Food and Agriculture to benefit Gari processors in the Bunafo region. The initiative, according to the ministry, is designed to help sustain food security and improve the livelihoods of the processors. During the training, the participants are offered the opportunity to see how Gari is processed in an improved and hygienic manner. At the Amia Agro Plus processing facility in the Wenchi municipality, the participants were taken through steps involved in the handling of cassava before processing. The Bunafo Regional Director of the Ministry of Food and Agriculture, Dr. Cyril Quist, said the support is not only to improve food safety, but also add value to Gari to increase the income of the processors. He advised them to form groups and assess support from government interventions like GASIP and the Climate Change Facility. An environmental health assistant from the Wenchi Municipal Assembly, Ms. Mavis Kruwa Nyakun, advised the participants on the need to practice good hygiene in their operations to avoid contamination. Amia Agro Plus, a cassava processing firm based at Wenchi, was chosen as the venue for the training because it adheres to best practices, especially in the area of hygiene. A key part of the training was a tour of the company's processing plants. This is how Dr. Mari Bationo, a Gari processor, reacted to the experience.
We are happy to see that we can be taken up as a model for the other agro processors. Yet we are not up to where we should be, but we are trying. The demand for cassava will grow, so I encourage the farmers and even the processors, those who are farm, to increase production.
With this initiative, Women in Agriculture Development (WIAD) hopes to enhance the operations of food processors in the region and beyond.
Now, 3 suspected armed robbers believed to have masterminded and carried out a series of robberies and killings in the Ashanti region were shot dead by the police. This was during an exchange of gunfire at the Smith Flat at Esuyeboa. The Ashanti Regional Police Command says it received information on July 21, 2016 that 4 robbers had operated between the Obuasi and the Jakobu Road, killing a taxi driver who was conveying a sick Chinese man to a health facility in a nearby town. The said robbers used pump-action guns in the operation. Reports say one Bernard Ali and his accomplices were suspected to have committed the crime. The Deputy Ashanti Regional Police Commander, ACP Ampofuduku, said police intelligence gathered on July 25, 2016 was that the same group was about to attack a house at Esuyeboa Smith Flat. ACP Duku said a police team laid ambush and at about 10:30 p.m. a taxi cab on which the suspects were traveling was spotted pulling up at the said spot. The police signaled them to stop, but the driver ignored them and sped off, whilst the others opened fire on the police. The police pursued them and at a point, the driver slowed down. The 3 suspects got down, entered the bush and engaged the police in further exchanges. The driver and other occupants of the taxi, believed to be holding a pump-action gun, managed to escape with the taxi driver, whilst the 3 others, including Bernard Ali, were later found dead with gunshot wounds in the bush. ACP Duku said 2 locally manufactured pistols, 2 mobile phones, 2 empty cartridges, 2 cigarette lighters, 2 spare batteries, etc., and an amount of 24 Ghana cedis were found on them. He said those who escaped might have sustained gunshot wounds and therefore appealed to hospitals and the public to report any such person or persons to the police.
The management of Ridge Hospital say there are 7 unclaimed dead bodies at their morgue and are calling on anyone with knowledge about them to alert their relatives. The deceased are Elizabeth Korte, Emmanuel Odame, Queen Sule, Benjamin Osei, Doris Ejebia, Lantoma Buabu, and a 35-year-old whose name is not known. Management says bodies that are not claimed from the hospital 2 weeks after this announcement will be given a mass burial.
An 18-seater bus was involved in a motor accident on the Ring Road near Paloma Hotel. 6 passengers, including the driver and his mate, are said to be in critical condition and receiving attention at the hospital.
The vehicle, according to an eyewitness, was heading towards Kanda, but skidded off its lane when its brakes failed. To avoid colliding with an oncoming vehicle, it drove into the wall at the Paloma Hotel, hitting a motor rider in the process. The vehicle is said to have somersaulted. 28-year-old IT personnel Ellie Brown is an eyewitness.
The people inside the car will be like the number of 6, and to my witness, the people that go ahead will be like 4. And at that process, we have to rush them to the hospital and all those stuff. So on my back, as you can see, the car somersaulted and then hit the wall over there, and the 4 tires are lifted up. And in that process, what got me annoyed was like people were here for us to like help the accident victims. They were just here screaming all to themselves, and I have to like call a whole lot of people for us to help, and it's only few people that assisted us to help to assist the people, brought them out from the car and so on and so forth, which is very bad. As a Ghanaian, an accident happened, we shouldn't have to stand and watch the people. And the most annoying part, accident happen, people just think of like stealing, robbing, taking things from the car and so on, in which we should help human beings.
There was no casualty. The victims in critical condition have since been taken to the hospital. The 18-seater Sprinter bus with registration number GE850909 is at the Nima police station for further investigations. Rebecca Ewa, GBC24, Accra.
Coming up is business.
Good evening, welcome to some business news. My name is Esther Edu Ohumo. The Finance Minister, Mr. Sektekwe, has revealed that the IMF board is expected to approve the 3rd review in August after additional targets set by the IMF are satisfied. Presenting the mid-year budget to Parliament, Mr. Tekwe said the IMF remains broadly satisfied with the performance of the country thus far.
Ghana's economic program with the International Monetary Fund is in its 2nd year of implementation since the IMF Executive Board approved the 3-year extended credit facility program in April 2015. Although the 3rd review was in May 2016, approval has been put on hold by the board due to reports that Ghana could not meet certain targets in the agreement. Addressing Parliament on Monday, Finance Minister Seth Tekpe explained what had caused the hold-up.
As noted by the mission in their statement, implementation of the ECF program, notwithstanding headwinds from low commodity prices, remains broadly satisfactory, with most of end December 2015 performance criteria met.
But MP for Kwadaso, Dr. Owusu-Efriye Akoto, holds a different view.
There's more to it than that, because by now the board should have approved. The schedules are there. We all know the schedules. The fact that they decided to postpone it means that there are certain targets which are not being met. That is a simple truth. No matter how well they try to dress it up, they haven't met certain facilities, certain targets that had been agreed with the IMF. It's as simple as that.
Still on the budget, government is to hold talks with some foreign banks to help restructure VRA's debt of 2.2 billion cedis. The move will present the company with a clean balance sheet, which will position it to raise letters of credit to buy crude from the international market. The government is, however, expected to finalize talks with some 6 domestic banks already contacted for the same purpose.
Delta River Authority owes some domestic banks in excess of $1.1 billion. Not only is the debt crippling lenders, but also denying the VRA the financial muscle to buy crude to power the country's energy demands. To save the situation, government, through the Ministry of Finance, approached some domestic banks to help restructure VRA's debt. Speaking to journalists at a post-mid-year budget review news conference in Accra, Finance Minister Seth Terkper revealed that the government will in the coming weeks speak to some foreign banks with the option of either paying the debt in full or in part.
We came to the point where VRA was no longer able to pay its debts, and therefore the banks were not providing them with the letters of credit. Government had to support them with promissory notes. And that means that if they are unable to pay, then me and you as taxpayer will have to pay. For how long are we? And that increases the debt, which shouldn't be the case. So what we are doing is we brought all the banks together. We are expecting to sign the agreement pretty soon. We finished the negotiations. And because they were paying principal and not paying interest, some of the interest was not being paid, the debt was increasing. So we put a moratorium at a certain point and said, let's renegotiate. What we have done is to renegotiate in terms of the time it will take to pay. We have the second round of discussions with other banks, including foreign banks, to either take off, or substitute the old debt with the new or pay off some, and then hopefully we will have taken care of VRA's balance sheet.
Experts in the power sector say the current erratic power being experienced in some parts of the country is partly due to the VRA's inability to purchase crude.
The insurance news is after the break. The Bank of Industry in Nigeria has collaborated with insurance companies in the country to indemnify loan facilities and assets of micro, small and medium enterprises in that country.
The acting managing director of the Bank of Industry has said in Abuja that the collaboration through the National Insurance Commission (NACOM) is aimed at expanding its lending operations to assist business owners at the micro level who are unable to secure loan from the bank due to challenge of collateral. The duo at the 2016 Insurance Industry Conference in Abuja stated that the effort is aimed at supporting the bank by ensuring that all facilities loaned out is properly protected by the insurance industry and also to ensure that the loan assets are covered. He said the inability of MSMEs to get the required collateral led to the bank's collaboration with NACOM in ensuring that the loan facilities are protected by insurers in such a way that MSMEs pay premium to insurance companies when the loans are granted in order to secure funds. He further said that the bank is mindful of the health of insurance companies, and for that purpose, they are working with the Commission to ensure that they deal with insurance companies that can't share risk with the bank so that when there are claims, they will be able to honor it. He also said that the assets that the bank need to be insured against fire, theft and natural disasters, noting that the more viable enterprises the bank lend to, the more customers the insurance companies will have. On the number of insurers that will be involved in the collaboration, he said that the bank is looking at 10 insurance firms aimed at ensuring access to finance across the country. He added that the bank is doing all it can to improve its rating to 20 basis points upward in the country.
And that's it for business. Have a good evening.
23-year-old Yvonne Agor has been diagnosed with a complex hole in heart disease. Her parents are appealing for financial support for their daughter to undergo corrective surgery abroad. She is currently on admission at the children's ward at the Kolebu Teaching Hospital.
Condition is congenital. This is where two large holes develop in the walls that separate the collecting and pumping chambers of the heart. The problem is usually diagnosed in the first year of life for corrective surgery. Sedinam was diagnosed when she was 2 years old, which according to her doctors is a late diagnosis. The doctors say her condition is complex, requiring a medical procedure to be performed on her abroad. Her mother, Mercy Ago, is appealing for assistance from the general public to raise money for the procedure. All donations for Sedinam should be directed to the National Cardiothoracic Center, Kolebu, or call Mary Ago on telephone numbers 0509 76 5756 or 0246 341440. Her parents say no amount is too small.
For some update from the world of sports, I'm Theophilus Sampa. Let's talk tennis. The John Evans Atta Mills Memorial Foundation, in collaboration with the Ghana Tennis Federation, is organizing a 6-day tennis tournament. The competition forms part of activities in memory of the late president.
In partnership with the Ghana Tennis Federation, will host a men's singles tennis tournament at the Accra Sports Stadium. The organizers say this is on the lineup of activities commemorating the 4th anniversary of the passing of the late President John Evans Atta Mills. Speaking to the media ahead of the launch of the tournament, a board member of the foundation, Kwejo Mills, said the former president loved sports, and so the competition is being held to support one of the disciplines he loved.
So ideally, what we'd like to do is make this an annual week-long event. As you may know, this is the week that the president was born. This is his birthday week, and we're hoping to, stretch this and make this go into other sports, other deserving sports like hockey, which he loved, quite a lot, and basketball as well. So we're hoping to turn this into a week-long event, the Atta Mills Memorial Sports Week, and that would sort of support sports as well as his legacy.
Vice President of the Ghana Tennis Federation, Isaac Dia, praised the initiative.
And it's come at the right time because we lack tournaments for the kids, because this is a full-time job for some of the kids, and we're trying to get the kids off the streets to do sports. And if they're off the kids, they also need to get something in return. So it's come at the right time with good packages for the professionals, and also it involves the under-16. So we are very happy to be associated with the Atta Mills Foundation.
The tournament has contests in 2 categories, reserved for professional and amateur players. Senior athletes will compete for cash prizes, while the amateurs will vie for educational scholarships and tennis equipment. The competition will be played throughout the week, with the final match on Saturday, July 30th.
That's all for sports.
In entertainment, Barclays Center, New York came to life last weekend with Afro-pop and Afrobeat sounds emerging from the continent. This was at the first U.S. edition of the Africa Music Fest. The musical night saw thousands of music lovers troop to the Barclays Center for performances from top African music experts. Before we go, we look at the main stories again. Ghana Independent Broadcasters Association has launched a code of conduct for broadcasting with barely 5 months to go for election 2016. The document, which is supported by UNICEF, is to uphold ethical standards and ensure decent language on the airwaves.
Following a delay with the coming on board of the National Identification System, the NDPC is being asked to liaise with the implementing agency to speed up the process. This system would prevent overlapping of data and ensure a single reference point to access details. We appreciate your time for watching news at this time. News Tonight is at 10:30. Please look at it with us.
Good evening.